I'm Mike Seiler with Mississippi Emergency Management Public Assistance Office. We're going to be talking about the FEMA Declaration DR 4899, and this is going to cover the incident period that started January 23rd. It was declared February the 6th, and our RPA deadline, one of the more important deadlines we need to meet at this stage in the game, is going to be March the 8th, 2026. That's 30 days from the declared date, which is our deadline to get your request for public assistance in. If you have any questions, you can contact your assigned program delivery manager and your state assigned public assistance contact. You can always contact me. It's mseiler@mema.ms.gov, and our number is 601-933-6886 if you need any help at any time during this process. The counties declared for 4899 are Marshall, Benton, Tippah, Alcorn, Tate, Tishomingo, Quitman, Panola, Lafayette, Union, Pontotoc, Lee, Prentiss, Bolivar, Sunflower, Tallahatchie, Yallabusha, Calhoun, LaFleur, Carroll, Montgomery, Grenada, Webster, Washington, Humphreys, Holmes, Attala, Sharkey, Yazoo, Issaquena, Warren, Claiborne, Jefferson, Adams, and the Band of Choctaw Indians. This is work that's considered eligible for categories A through G under the FEMA's guidelines and rules, which we'll speak more about later. Now, 4 other counties were designated as Category B eligible only counties. Those 4 counties are DeSoto, Tunica, Coahoma, and Hinds. An overview of public assistance is what we're going to start covering. A public assistance definition: applicant, facility, work, and cost. Supplemental financial assistance to state and local governments, certain private nonprofit organizations for response and recovery activities required as a result of federally declared disasters. Funding is a cost share at a federal share of no less than 75% of eligible cost. In the end, government agencies will receive 75% federal reimbursement and 12.5% state reimbursement. Private nonprofit agencies will only receive the 75% federal reimbursement. The Public Assistance Program assists in restoration of community infrastructures as a result of a federally declared event. It is a supplemental cost reimbursement program with specific eligibility requirements. The FEMA share of eligible costs will be available to the recipient grantee for disbursement to the applicants. To explain on that a little bit further, the recipient is what's going to be referred to as us as MEMA, and we're going to be the middle person between FEMA and you as the applicant. So you may see yourself referred to as the sub-recipient and us as the recipient, just to lessen the confusion. Public assistance is not assistance to local populations for damages to private homes, commercial property, local businesses, farms, any other entity other than a governmental or a private nonprofit. The partnership in this disaster will be between FEMA, MEMA, and you as the applicant. FEMA manages the program, provides technical assistance, and approves grants. MEMA, as the recipient, educates applicants, works with FEMA to manage the program, implements and monitors grants awarded. Applicants, subrecipients, identifies damage, provide documentation, manages funding the projects, manages the funded projects. There's an eligibility pyramid that FEMA used, and it is at the bottom as the base of it is the applicant, which means you as being an eligible applicant. Your facility has to be an eligible facility, the work has to be an eligible work, and the cost has to be reasonable to be eligible. So this is the basis of how projects are built and eligibility is determined. Eligible applicants are the state, the declared counties, the cities, towns, villages within declared counties, other political subdivisions of the state, Native American tribal governments and tribal organizations, and certain nonprofit organizations. To be an eligible private nonprofit applicant, the PNP must show that it has a current ruling letter from the IRS granting tax exemption under 501c, D, or E, or the Internal Revenue Code of 1954, or Documentation for the Mississippi Secretary of State sustaining it is a non-revenue producing nonprofit entity doing business under the state law. Two categories of private nonprofits. One would be critical services, eligible for both emergency work and permanent work. Some examples of this would be a fire, emergency rescue, volunteer firemen, medical treatment, power, water, and sewer utilities, communication systems, and educational facilities. The other category of P&P is a non-critical essential services, eligible for emergency work. This would be museums, community centers, libraries, houses of worship, senior citizens centers, zoos, daycare centers, etc. Non-critical essential P&Ps must first apply to the Small Business Administration for assistance, disaster loan assistance for permanent work before applying to FEMA. To build up on that pyramid that we started talking about earlier, to be eligible for the facility must be damage as a result of the declared event, located within the presidentially declared area, be the legal responsibility of the eligible applicant, and not be under the authority of a federal agency. Types of work, and this is going to be one of the things we spend most of the time on, is going to be the categories of work, and they are A to G. We will also mention a Z at the end, but for this part of it, let's just focus on the A to G. That can be further broken down into emergency work and permanent work. Emergency work is category A, debris removal, and category B, emergency protective measures. Permanent work, which would be C through G, is C, roads and bridge systems, D, water control facilities, E, public buildings and equipment, F, public utilities, and G, others. This could be parks, this could be beaches, piers. G is kind of a catch-all for the rest of the work that needs to be categorized. FEMA is authorized to provide public assistance funding for emergency work, including emergency protective measures and debris removal. Emergency work is which must be done immediately to save lives, protect public health, protect and improve property, eliminate or lessen an immediate threat of additional damage. Category A, debris. Debris removal is an eligible win. It eliminates an immediate threat to life, health, and safety. It eliminates immediate threat to significant damage to improved property, and then ensures economic recovery of the community and provides a benefit to the community at large. In category A, the dues can be categorized as contact MDEQ for staging sites, truck certifications, monitoring the debris, activate your pre-position contract if you have one, and bid out debris work beyond 30 days from the storm. Don't in category A world is stage your debris wherever you want. Place debris on unpermitted sites, continue with emergency contract beyond 30 days, and ignore debris monitoring. Category B are actions taken by applicants before, during, and after a disaster to save lives, protect public health and safety, and prevent damage to improve property. This can include search and rescue, fire and flood fighting, securities such as barricades, fencing, or law enforcement, and to push debris from the roadway, not disposal. Now we're going to break into permanent work, and this is going to be the category C through G. Eligible permanent work must repair, restore, or replace disaster damaged facilities in accordance with regulations. Must restore to pre-disaster design, capacity, and function in accordance with applicable laws and codes and standards. Must be required as a result of the disaster and may include cost-effective hazard mitigation measures. Category C in permanent work are roads and bridges. And this could be roads, road surfaces, bases, shoulders, ditches, and bridges. This could be decking, abutments, wing walls, and approaches. Drainage structures could be culverts and cross drains. Again, we have to prove to FEMA that this is going to be as a direct result of whatever this event could be. Category C, roads and bridges. Remember, public assistance cannot reimburse items that are under the authority of federal agencies. Many roads in Mississippi are federal aid roads, making them ineligible for permanent work under the Public Assistance Reimbursement Grant. Facilities built for the following purpose: pumping, drainage, and irrigation fall under the category D for water facilities. Category E, building and equipment. This could be building as well as contents in that building. This has things that we could apply if necessary, such as the 50% rule, where it makes more sense to rebuild instead of replace. It can be improvements to the facility due to codes and standards. It could be replacement of equipment, replacement of vehicles, and replacement of supplies. Insurance will be deducted, as well as salvage values be deducted from anything that is lost. We'll get more into insurance further into the slides. Category F is utilities. This is power generation, distribution centers, water and sewer treatment plants, telecommunication systems. Damage, again, must be related to the disaster. Category G, parks, recreation. This is the catch-all, the other category of work that we spoke about earlier. This is playgrounds, swimming pools, ballparks, piers, beaches, would be categorized here. And earlier I mentioned the category Z, which is out of the A and G sequence, but this is going to be for your administrative costs. The Stafford Act authorizes PA funding management costs. This is indirect administrative expenses. Preliminary damage assessments, meeting regarding the PA program, organizing damage sites into logical groups, and correspondence. Funding is based on actual cost up to the specific amount, and that's 100% funded, a federal fund to the applicant. But the applicant must track those costs. To be eligible for reimbursement, costs must be reasonable and necessary to accomplish eligible work. A cost is reasonable if, in nature and amount, it does not exceed which would be incurred by a prudent person under the circumstances prevailing at the time the applicant must take the decision to incur the cost. And I think that's worth repeating. We have to keep in mind what the value of our work is that we're going to be claiming, and ensure that it's going to be at market level. We're not paying for exorbitant fees above what would normally be you would want to incur during any normal business. To be eligible for reimbursement, costs must comply with federal, state, and local laws and regulations, authorized and not prohibited under federal, state, territorial, tribal, or local government laws or regulation, and consistent with applicants' internal policies, regulations, and procedures. Include deduction of insurance proceeds, salvage value, and purchase discounts. Eligible costs can be categorized in several different ways. Force account labor is going to be one of those ways. And category A, force account labor, debris removal for clearance, as an example, regular and straight time and overtime included fringe benefits are eligible. Category B, emergency protective measures, only the overtime is eligible, including the fringe benefits. So remember, category A, we can cover 100% of your force account labor cost. That's the regular time and the overtime. Cat B is only going to be for that overtime. And in category C through G, regular and straight time are eligible expenses. Category B is the only one that will be limited to overtime only. Materials is also an eligible expense. The cost of items used for applicants' inventory and for items purchased to make authorized repairs to meet the scope of work are eligible. Now, this could be something that you're pulling off of stock from your shelves that you keep on hand, or something that you have to go out and buy at the time. Applicant-owned equipment, the costs associated with equipment used to perform authorized repairs, all operating equipment hours are eligible, supported by labor timesheets. This is also referred to as force account equipment that you may hear coming up in the future, but it is important that we track every hour that this equipment is being used. We will also need to have an operator so we can tie into that equipment usage. Of course, contracts are eligible expenses. Be sure to follow proper procurement when you're doing that. Use emergency contracts only when necessary. When you go into that emergency contact track, be sure that you immediately follow that up with proper procurement methods of moving forward if you're going to exceed 30 days. Rental equipment is eligible cost. So types of projects that you'll incur are small projects, large projects, improved projects, and alternate projects. There's going to be thresholds throughout the whole process. Public assistance projects are processed as either small or large projects. If the project cost is more than $4,100 and less than $1,093,800 is a small project. If the project cost equals or exceeds that $1,093,800, the project is processed as a large project. The main differences between a large and a small project: the small project is funding is based on work completed if available, or initial cost estimate. Federal cost share is paid as soon as practical based on the complexity of the project. When the cost of the work is less than $4,100, that work is not eligible. A large project initially approved based on estimated cost. Funding is based on documented actual cost, and federal cost share is paid as work is accomplished. Improved projects. Applicants performing restoration work on damaged facility may use the opportunity to make improvements to the facility while restoring the facility to its pre-disaster function. The improvements must be approved by the state, FEMA, prior to construction. It may require a FEMA environmental historical assessment, and the applicant is responsible for the cost of the improvements. Federal funding is limited to the cost of the restoration. Alternate projects. When restoration of a damaged facility or function does not serve the public welfare, an applicant may use public assistance grants for other public facilities. The alternate project must be approved by FEMA prior to the construction, and a request for the alternate project must be made within 12 months of the recovery scoping meeting. Now, on the slide you're looking at gives an example that the school building was completely lost. It's damaged beyond reasonable repair, and they decided that was not going to serve the community as it was anymore. So they're optioning to take the money that they would receive for repair or replacement of that building and buy new buses with it. The alternate project may require an environmental assessment, and federal funding is limited to 90% of the federal share of the original project estimate or actual alternate project costs, whichever is less. For state and local governments, are 75% for P&P applicants, utilizing the traditional alternate project method. So what this is saying is if we are at a 75% federal share disaster and you choose to go an alternate project, you will only receive 90% of the 75. So if it was a $100,000 project, $75,000 would be the federal share of that project. It will be reduced by another $7,500 or 10% down. And then that would be the bucket of money that you would use to do the work that you are opting to do instead of rebuilding or repairing. So the project of peer performance, the calendar is really important when we're dealing with FEMA and where timelines are going to have to be followed. This time limit would be for completion of work, and this is going to start at the date of the declaration. Emergency work must be completed within 6 months of the date of declaration, and permanent work, that C through G category, has 18 months to be completed. You can apply for time extensions, and it is not unheard of to be denied on a time extension. So please make due diligence to get this completed in the time frame provided. The recipient can grant a time extension, that would be me at MEMA, for extenuating circumstances. Emergency work, I can extend it for an additional 6 months, and on permanent work, I can extend it for another 30 months. After that, it will have to be approved by FEMA for further time extensions, and like mentioned before, we have seen them be denied. So take it seriously and try to get the work done in the time allowed. Special considerations are issues other than program eligibility that can affect the scope of work, funding of a project, and these issues include insurance, hazard mitigation, environmental protection, floodplain management, historic preservation, and cultural resources. We spoke a minute ago about insurance deductions having to be taken from the obligated amount that that the project is written for. You'll have to provide your insurance policy. You'll have to show all correspondence with your insurance provider. FEMA's insurance specialist will look at your policy and see what you're legally eligible to get. And when that is determined, that will be reduced on that project worksheet from the obligated amount. And if anything is less from your insurance provider than what the FEMA insurance specialist says that you should get, there will have to be measures that you have taken shown and demonstrated to FEMA that you have gotten everything that you can from your insurance provider. So don't take the first offer. If you feel like you need more or you should get more, go to your insurance and make sure that you're getting everything you're eligible for from that insurance provider. Hazard mitigation. Now, with public assistance, we're talking about 406 hazard mitigation. There's another pocket of mitigation called 408, but we're talking about 406. And what makes the difference between 406 and 408 mitigation is it's only mitigation to items and structures that were affected in this disaster. So it has to be mitigation towards the building that was damaged. It has to be mitigation, and an example on the slide that you see is a culvert that gets blown out, and we can use mitigating funds to harden that so it won't have to pay that again. We won't have to deal with that again and make you a more resilient community. Historical and environmental preservation compliance. This is a world that we have to adhere to. There's not a lot of wiggle room when it comes to these items, environmental and historical preservation. We're going to have to make sure we're staying in compliance with them. All FEMA funded projects must comply with a variety of EHP laws, regulation, and executive orders. EHP review is done prior to funding to ensure compliance with applicable federal laws. EHP review is a collaboration between FEMA, the state, applicants, tribal entities, and local organizations in construction of new facilities, alternate projects, modification, expansion, or mitigation of existing facilities may require more extensive EHP review. To ensure that all practical means are used to protect, restore, and enhance the environment, FEMA projects must comply with all applicable laws and regulation, including National Environmental Policy Act, the Magnuson-Stevens Act, Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, and 44 CFR Parts 9 and 10. Floodplain and wetland management. Any project within or affecting the floodplain or wetlands must be reviewed to ensure that it meets the requirements of several federal laws and executive orders. EO, Executive Order 11988, Floodplain Management, Executive Order 11990, Protection of Wetlands, and Clean Water Act. Historical Preservation and Cultural Resources. The National Historical Preservation Act requires FEMA grantees and applicants to assess potential effects to historic and cultural resources, such as historical buildings and structures, districts, archaeological and tribal sites, objects and artifacts, may require consultation with state historical preservation offices, tribal historic preservation officer, and the Advisory Council for Historic Preservation. One of the biggest jobs that you'll face as an applicant is going to be record retention or record keeping. Applicants are required to maintain complete, accurate documentation by project for all disaster-related costs. Documentation must be maintained a minimum of 3 years after the applicant closeout. This is not 3 years from you close out one project. This is 3 years when the disaster closes out or you close out of the disaster as an applicant. Keep in mind, we have all of this documentation is going to be stored, uploaded into the grants portal system as well as possibly into our Mississippi PA database that you're free to use. You're welcome to use it. It'll be stored there, and we can utilize those pieces of technology for keeping your documents if you'd like. Documentation, that could be force account labor, that could be force account equipment, material, rental agreements, and contracts. Force account labor, applicant's payroll policy, the applicant's benefit calculation worksheet, the applicant's complete employee list should include employees' rate and exempt versus non-exempt employees, timesheets and payroll records, and copies of canceled checks, proof of direct deposit as far as payment towards your force account labor. Force account equipment, that would be applicant equipment listings, equipment documentation sheets, employee timesheets reflecting employment, operating equipment time, date, and of use, and FEMA schedule equipment rates. Force account material, that document would be material summary records, applicant's material inventory list dated prior to disaster, material requisition sheets, invoices of materials purchased and put into inventory, and copies of checks paying the invoices. Rental equipment and contracts. Rented equipment would be the copy of the signed rental agreement, invoices, and proof of payment. Contracts, procurement, bid tabs, signed contracts and invoices and canceled checks. All documents that you will need to obtain, if possible, that supports the damages and the costs that you incur. Procurement. FEMA is going to insist that you procure things properly, and that's following our state guidelines. Any local requirements that you may have in your area, and whichever is the most stringent is what FEMA is going to want to follow. There is going to be training provided throughout this process, and we will have those times and dates forward to you as soon as possible. Any decision that FEMA makes are subject to appeal. If you feel like that is not the correct call that FEMA made, you did not get the scope of work approved by FEMA, and you feel like it was as of a direct result of that disaster and it was eligible funding, several different reasons why you might feel like you need to appeal a decision by FEMA, and there is a method and a way to go about doing that. The appeal must be submitted to the state in writing within 60 days of receipt of the notice of the action being appealed. You will get a determination memo referred to as a DM, and on that date you will have 60 days from them to get me the information to appeal that, your reasoning why that should be an eligible cost. Once I receive it, I have another 60 days to look over it and to provide feedback if I see fit or we see fit as the state, and that must be to FEMA within 120 days total. 60 days for the applicant and 60 days for us to get that to FEMA. So if there's a first level appeal and a second level appeal, the first level appeal will be made a decision on by the regional FEMA office, and once that determination is made and you receive that, the days start back over. You have the opportunity to do a second appeal as well, and it will be 60 days from your being notified of the determination of the first appeal. I have 60 days, or MEMA has 60 days to review that and get it to FEMA, and then once they get it, it will go to Washington headquarters at FEMA to make sure they have the determination, they get a voice in it as well, and will give their rendering of how that should go. That's the only two options for appeal. You have one appeal that goes to the region, and your second appeal will go to headquarters in Washington, and the determination from the Washington office is going to be the final. There is no options after the second appeal. We spoke a minute about time limits. So applicants must submit a request for public assistance within 30 days of the respective area being designated as a declaration. Applicant must submit all damages within 60 days from the recovery scoping meeting. And this will be moving forward after this meeting, we will be contacting you, and then a FEMA and a MEMA representative will be giving you more information on these terms, recovery scoping meeting, and they will set the timeline out and make sure you're really aware of how that's going to work, and we'll help you out. If time gets close to a milestone, we're going to let you know well in time that we need to get an answer, we need to get documentation, we need to do something for movement. So we will work with you on this and make sure we're meeting these goals. Sandy Recovery Act made some changes after Hurricane Sandy. The debris removal operations, this allowed for straight time to be added. We spoke about that earlier. It used to only be overtime, but after the Sandy hurricane, they added straight time to all force account labor for debris removal, and applicant can retain the earnings from recycling. So if you lose a vehicle, you can take that and have it recycled. You can metal that you you picking up as debris or from an old building, you can take that, recycle it, and then those funds can be retained by you as the applicant. Also with Sandy Recovery Act, permanent work, which is Section 428, grants based on estimated, which if you choose to go this route, that will be a capped amount. Cost overrun absorbed by you, the applicant. Underrun can be used by the applicant for specific mitigating uses, must be approved by FEMA. Applicant may consolidate multiple projects into one project, and FEMA may accept applicant's licensed engineer cost estimate. Must be very sure of the cost, and overrun as a permanent work is common. So if you choose not to do this, make sure you've got the best picture that you've got on what's going to happen and how much that's going to cost you, because once this is set into motion, alterations of that cap fund is going to be a very difficult task. Anything over what you predicted early on to spend for this work, it's going to be really difficult to get any more, and you may have to absorb those costs. All work with FEMA on this project, on our project worksheet, will be done through Grants Portal. If there's any questions, if you don't have a Grants Portal account, or you need help getting into it, or just need some help to navigate it, feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you out. The information you see on the slide now is the website that you can go to, and like I said, if you need the password, we'll get that to you. Grant Portal, you'll start with Grants Portal to submit your request for public assistance, and you may hear that is referred to as RPA. Through your Grants Portal account, you simply log in. There'll be a banner at the top of the screen with a large button that says Submit Request for Public Assistance, and you'll follow the prompts from then on out. 30 minutes, 60 seconds, that's about as long as it's going to, you'll have to stay on that to get it knocked out. It's a very simple process to do. Again, if you need the Grants Portal access, contact myself. The email is on the slide. You'll need, when you contact us, there'll be things that you'll need, such as the name of the organization, the tax ID number, the DUNS number, point of contact, that person's name, their position, their phone number, and their email address. Once the RPA is approved, you'll be contacted by your program delivery manager from either MEMA or FEMA to initiate several meetings. We're going to walk with you hand in hand in this. I know it's going to be new and different for a lot of folks, but we're not going to leave you alone. We're going to be there. We're going to be a phone call and email away. We will meet you in person as often as we can, and there should be no stress over this. We'll tell you exactly what we need and help you collect it if necessary. But just work with us. There shouldn't be any stress involved in this whole procedure. Like I stated before, we're going to have a lot of different meetings and at different times we're going to get together, and these will all be explained to you by your program delivery manager or your MEMA representative. And each thing is going to start a new clock. And again, don't stress out about the clocks and the time frames. We're going to walk you through that. You'll be well aware of those deadlines, and we will do our best to make that as a simple step as humanly possible. And we'll go through the operational plan through all of these slides, and you can read for yourself that we're very well laid out, and it's going to be easy to track as time goes on. And then once we get in the scoping meeting, that's when we're really going to talk about your damages and getting that list and quantifying and making sure we have good estimates if it's going to be a small project. If it's completed work, we want to have all the documents there so we know how much it cost you to complete the work. Again, we're going to talk about the timelines and deadlines. So if we do need to do site inspection on work not completed, we can schedule that then during these meetings. After the recovery scoping meeting, your project will begin to be developed by the project team. A lot of that happens behind the scenes, and we're going to make sure you're in the loop as much as we can. And if there's anything we need to get from you to add to this program project, we're going to get it from you and help you out in this every step of the way. We're going to need you to think about who your applicant agent for your agency is going to be. And as you're thinking about that, some of the things that you can just use as a guide to finding out who that person is is they do need an understanding of the program elements. And that's the categories of work we spoke about, the types of labor that's and costs that can be incurred are reimbursed for, and familiar with the computer, well organized and readily available. This is going to take some of your time, but we're going to try to make it as easy on you as humanly possible. The responsibility is going to be on you as an applicant to make these timelines, make these time frames work, to get us this information so we can build the project. But again, I stress it, we're going to work with you. Don't overstress this. But for a while, it's going to be pretty fast-paced. You feel like we're really beating you over the head for getting information, but it is going to benefit y'all in the long run. It's going to make us getting reimbursements out that much quicker. But we're going to work with you on it. So don't think this is just going to be something impossible to accomplish. The Public Assistance Program assists in the restoration of community infrastructure. This is it in a nutshell. We're going to try to make you whole again. We're going to try to fund you to the maximum amount of we can to make you whole again. It is a reimbursement, so I'm going to have to get some of these documents from you. You're going to have to incur some of the costs prior to us being able to provide some of that relief funding to you. Work with us, get us information as quick as you can, and we will try to turn that reimbursement check just right around as quick as we possibly can. Again, I am Mike Seiler. Our office number is 601-933-6886. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to any of the staff at any point in time if you have questions, and we will do our best. We're going to be with you. We're going to come to you in person. We're not going to phone this in, if you will. We're going to come to your offices, and we're going to hold your hand if you'll forgive me that. But we'll be there as much as you need us. Maybe sometimes more than you need us. But we're gonna get you through this and not leave you alone. So bear with us. We're going to be with you for a while, but we'll get the reimbursements back to you as quick as possible. Thank you.